Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for being here. My name is Tom Llamas. I'm an anchor for NBC News, and I have a show on NBC News Now, our streaming platform called Top Story with Tom Llamas. And I have the opportunity in my job to talk to people who are running for president, world leaders, first ladies, CEOs,
Stop showing off.
the most important people in the world. And yet, when I come and do these seminars, I get the most inspiration, the most reward from talking to people like you're going to meet here, because what they're doing sometimes is underreported. They don't do this for publicity. They're not celebrities, except for John, sort of. But they do this because they truly care about changing and inspiring America. And so at NBC News, we have a primetime special. It's called Inspiring America. It's run for a few years now. It's built off Nightly News with Lester Holt's segment, Inspiring America. And we spotlight 10 people who are truly changing America. We have a short clip we want to start this seminar with, so if we can play that now, please.
You're the queen of country music, but you came back to Atuka. Why?
It's home. They said we need this road to revitalize the town, and sure enough, that's exactly what happened.
Activism, philanthropy, they've been with you throughout your life.
Yeah, helping Latinas specifically reach their full potential. Just telling people you believe in their potential is huge.
What is it that we may not fully appreciate in the veteran experience?
A lot of service members are struggling in silence. The invisible wounds of war, we want them to be okay.
Incarcerating people over and over again. What you're offering, it makes so much more sense.
Yes, I mean, women are not throwaway people, and we invest in them.
Some are reaching for the stars.
There's so much about the universe that we don't know. These huge mysteries out there.
Some are reaching out a hand.
I remember the struggles. I want him to succeed, just like I succeeded.
Meet the people shining a light and showing the way.
LeBron James, he's a role model, and he empowers us.
Inspiring America, the 2023 Inspiration List.
Wow. And so part of this panel, we're so lucky to have one of our honorees who's sitting right next to me, Susan Burton. She's the author also of Becoming Miss Burton, From Prison to Recovery to Leading the Fight for Incarcerated Women. She has an incredible story that we're going to hear about more in just a little bit. She's a leader in the criminal justice movement, and she's the founder of New Way of Life Reentry Project. She spoke with my friend and colleague, Savannah Guthrie. Here's a short clip of that.
It was like 11 of us living in that little house. And we were happy, we were laughing together, we were crying together, we were going to meetings together, we were cooking together, recovering together.
You make a home, not just a house. Why does that matter?
In prison, it's hard. It's cement. It's concrete. It's steel. When women walk into the homes of a new way of life, they get to experience texture, color, bright furniture, fruit on the table, flowers on the table. That this is a new world and it's much different from where you come from.
And you're worthy of it.
And you're worthy of it.
Our next panelist, you may recognize, 75 films? 75?
I thought it was 200. Oh, it is 200. Look it up. You got the wrong number.
Really? All right.
You're a journalist.
That's messed up. I know him from a show. I know him from a show called House of Buggin', which if you're a Johnny Legs fan, you know House of Buggin'.
It got canceled.
It was amazing, though. John Leguizamo, he's an actor, producer, writer, breakdancer. But most of all, what inspires me about John is that he's on the front lines for Hispanics, always pushing to make sure we're heard and seen. So he had this amazing idea to do a show where he traveled across America telling our stories. But he sort of kind of, I don't want to say he tricked the news executives, but
I did trick them.
They thought it was a travel show, but it was much more than that. It was about just the beautiful stories of Hispanics across America, and it was so empowering. We have a clip of that as well. I should also announce we do have breaking news. It just got re-upped for a second season on MSNBC. So here's a taste of that.
Right here, this is the building I grew up in, on apartment 4A. And it was incredible because the subway's like right there. So we'd be watching TV like a murder mystery, and they'd be about to tell you, you know, and the murderer, and I would hear. So that's how I learned how to write, because I used to have to make up my own stories. My parents were like immigrant parents, so I had to earn all my Christmas presents. I had to read the encyclopedia from A to Z, otherwise I won't get my bicycle. So I got my bicycle, and I brought it out here, and I got jumped by this kid named Johnny. He had my same name. Anyway, that was my life growing up, but it made me who I am today, right?
John Leguizamo, everybody.
Thank you.
I like that tracksuit, huh?
Right?
You kept it
was hot.
real.
I kept it. They gave me that. That's the only thing they gave me.
To talk about our next panelist, I want to do a quick exercise with everyone here. So everyone probably woke up this morning, they took a shower, they washed their hands, they used their toilet, and they probably didn't think twice about where that water went, where that waste went. So do me a favor right now. Close your eyes. Just close your eyes. Everyone here, close your eyes. Imagine it's 2023. You live in America, in a county in Alabama, just south of Montgomery. Maybe you're a father, maybe you're a mother, you got kids, maybe you're solo, but every time you look in your backyard, you can't believe what you're seeing. You can't believe what you're smelling, because you don't have a sewage system in America in 2023. So your kids can't even go outside, can't grow anything, and it smells terrible. So pretty much every day your dignity is taken from you. Now, meet someone who has the name Flowers. Catherine Coleman Flowers. She has made it her life's mission to get America and the government and President Joe Biden to fix this problem. And I'm going to start with her. So tell me, because it's hard to explain, and we've seen what happened in Flint, we've seen what's happened in Alabama with the drinking water, but to think that in America, a community that is, in this county, majority African American, more than 40% of them don't have toilets that work, don't have a sewage system, don't have a septic system. How does that happen in America?
That's a good question. I've been asking that question for a very long time. Well, first of all, let me give you some perspective. Lowndes County is between Selma and Montgomery. So most of the voting rights march went through Lowndes County. And I believe that a lot of the neglect that has taken place there is because of its history. If you were to look at the history of the voting rights movement, the original Black Panther Party was founded in Lowndes County, not in Oakland. And it was all around the right to vote. And a lot of those people are still alive. So Lowndes County has always been neglected. It's not there are 67 counties in the state of Alabama. All of them have a wastewater problem. But Lowndes County has been the one that's been penalized the most. And the thing that bothers me about it is that every year people come to Montgomery or Selma to go from Selma to Montgomery and pass right by it. Yeah. But fortunately, after, sometimes I feel like John the Baptist, in the wilderness, but somebody finally heard. But that is, all these years I've been working on this, that we finally got some traction and people are paying attention, because we had to get global attention to get attention here in the U.S. because people did not want to acknowledge that this was an American problem.
And explain the sort of unique factor in the work you're doing with that county. These homeowners, these people that were living there, were being fined and penalized because they weren't maintaining their own sewage from their own homes when nothing was provided for them.
Well, when I got involved in 2002, they were arresting people.
Arresting people?
They were actually arresting people, and they were arresting people. The only thing that I could see that they were guilty of was being poor. They couldn't afford to fix the problem. And consequently, we brought attention to it, and we've been working for years to deal with it. And we just found that the people that were penalized the most were the ones that could least afford to fix it. And we've just been documenting and working with people in the community to actually experience. I grew up in Lowndes County, so that's why I'm passionate about it. This is where I'm from. I can walk in the county, people can look in my face and say, "You're a Coleman." They don't have to know who I am, but they know my family because that's where I'm from. So that's why I'm committed to solving the problem. And I grew up with, I know what it's like to go to an outhouse. I know what it's like to use a slop jar. And I know what it's like to have raw sewage on the ground. And I thought when I left and went away to teach and moved back to the area that this had been fixed. But it's still the same problem. But I think now that there is some there's some bright light on the horizon that we're on our way to fixing it, because when I saw President Joe Biden, when they invited me to the White House, he said he had gone there for years and nobody had ever mentioned this to him. But he promised me that he's going to fix it.
Oh, that's
Susan, share with our audience a little bit about your story and how you were inspired to start your organization and how you're changing lives.
So, I was born into a pretty tough life, but I weathered it and held on pretty well up until 1981, when my son, KK, was killed. He died in an accident, and it just so happened that a police was driving the car that ran him over. I was devastated, and I began to drink, and I drank to drown the grief. It escalated to drug use. It was the early 80s. The war on drugs was being birthed and was in full flight, and I began to consume drugs after. My drinking just escalated, and I got sent to prison. And I was in a revolving door of prison, and get out, try to make a life, can't make a life, go back, get out, go back. And then I found a recovery home in Santa Monica, and there I was able to get my life together, to get my life on track. And I said, why hadn't someone offered this to me? A judge sentenced me 6 different times to go to prison and to be punished and to be worked and not be helped. So when I got sober, I'm like, this has to happen for more people. So I worked, and I saved my little minimum wages. And after about a year, I was able to get a little house. And I got the house, and I go down to the bus station, downtown LA, where every person who's released from prison gets off a bus there. And it's in the heart of Skid Row. And I would meet my friends and tell them, girl, I have a house. Because what they did in Santa Monica was just so simple, so compassionate, and so effective. Why wasn't it happening in South LA? So I started a new way of life. And I'd meet my friends and I would say, girl, I have a house. You can come over to my house. It's drug and alcohol free, and it's clean, and it's nice. And, you know, we created a community of women helping women.
So you started with one house?
One house.
A couple of women. Where have you gone from there?
So now we have 12 homes in LA County. And you know what I discovered is that it was more than just having a home. There was structural, institutional barriers that had to be addressed. So we built out a policy department, a legal department, a workforce development department, an organizing department, and you know, things that to help women and people be able to start a new life. But when I wrote my book in 2018, it was published. And I went on a tour around the nation, going into prisons and doing book readings with women and autographing the book and leaving them with a copy. And what I found all across America, there were women just like me who left prison and had nothing to come back to. So I started an initiative called SAFE, Sisterhood Alliance for Freedom and Equality. And what SAFE seeks to do is to train other women just like me, in their communities, you know, maybe giving people toothpaste or hygiene kits or whatever they can to help them come back into the community. So SAFE trains them to replicate our model. You know, we have a 94% success rate at a new way of life.
Wow.
I mean, it's just, yeah.
94?
Yeah. And so now SAFE has 41 replication sites around the country. and 38 and 3 in African countries. And it's just a simple approach. Just like you live in a house, just like I live in a house, we provide a place for people to come back to get grounded, to get your ID. You leave prison, you don't have an ID. You don't have a social security card. You don't have any money. You don't have anywhere to go. No one welcomes you back but the places that you left. And that's not a good place to be. So what we do just is give people a springboard to start a new life. So we offer that to women and the LGBT community. What I found is when I wrote the book, and I researched what was there out there for women, and there wasn't much there. So my focus is to lift up the voices and of the fastest growing segment of the criminal justice system is women. Lift up the need, lift up the voices, lift up their potential, and create opportunities for them to come back and create and give back into the community. It's just amazing what can happen with 90 days or 9 months of support for someone to just change the entire trajectory of not only their life, but their children's life, and improve what I call the vibration of the community, and create hope, happiness, joy, and a future, and safety for our communities.
Amazing. Yeah, incredible work. So, John, we're sharing the stage with two incredible women.
Oh, amazing.
You also are doing incredible work.
I'm not worthy.
Talk to us, though, and explain to us the road to get this show greenlit, but also sort of your life's mission, which is you're an actor, but throughout your entire career, you've always wanted to tell the stories of your community.
Yeah, well, because we Latin people are the oldest and largest ethnic group in America, besides our Native American brothers and sisters, and we're also Native American, and yet we're the most excluded ethnic group in Hollywood. That's why I call Hollywoodened, because I know it's not, it's not including us. I mean, 5 years ago we were less than 1% of the leads in front of the camera. Now we're maybe at 5%, maybe 6%. Things have improved a little bit, but we're 20% of the population. We over-index at the box office with 30% of the U.S. box office. We're $4 billion in streaming in America alone. We're a third of the sports fans, and yet less than 1% of our stories are being told. Less than 1% of the executives in Hollywood look like me. So there's such a vast disparity. I mean, the way we're living in America, Latin women are the lowest paid workforce in America, and yet they're the #1 drivers of the economy, because small business is the driving force of America, and Latin women are 87% of the small business startups, but they can never get to the second level because banks will never give them a loan. So you got that. We're in the worst schools in America. We're the second most brutalized by the police, the second largest ethnic group in jails. You have all this disparity and all this exclusion, and I came from that, and I survived it, and I've succeeded. So I've always felt a certain guilt, a survivor's guilt. So I felt like I had to do something, and so I've been pitching in Hollywood for 4 decades, thinking that I was a terrible pitcher and that I couldn't write because they never greenlit any project that was of mine because it was Latin content. But I'm winning awards on Broadway, which is much more difficult than Hollywood. But, I'm getting Obies, Tonys, Outer Critics Awards, but I could never sell a script. And I started to think that, it was me. But then I realized it wasn't me. They were never going to greenlight my stories. They would always tell me crazy things like, Latin people only want to see white people. I go, really? Is that how? I check inside myself, and that's not really true. And they tell me Latin people don't want to see feel-good movies, which is the most ridiculous statement. And producers would say to me, too bad you're Puerto Rican because you'd be so much further along. But it was the truth. It wasn't like a negative. It was a solid truth. So, and then I realized if I wrote like Shakespeare or Tennessee Williams or William Goldman, if I could act like Brando, if I looked like Paul Newman, I was still not get the gigs, and Latin people will still not get the gigs. We still be underrepresented. So here I'm pitching, 6 years I pitched this show, Leguizamo Does America. It wasn't called that back then. And it was impossible, because, you know, I'm in a green room. I'm in a pitch room, and I'm pitching. Lack of oxygen, you know, the altitude and whatnot.
Yeah, that part.
I'll wet my lips in a minute. So you're pitching, right? And how do I download executives who don't look like me, who have been rejecting me for 4 decades about Latin culture, you know? I mean, Cesar Conde, who's the chairman of NBC, looks like me, so I didn't have to do the whole download of my history. Because look, I got 20 minutes. Take out your phone.
Okay.
Give me a minute.
Okay.
To download my history, and I'll try to do my best.
Go for it. Go.
Go? All right. So we were the largest ethnic group in America, the oldest. We're the most, we fought in every single war America has ever had. We're the most awarded ethnic group in every single one of those wars. We gave you chocolate. We gave you vanilla. We gave you spicy food. We gave you mambo, cha-cha, samba, reggaeton. Maybe you don't like that, but too bad, fuck you. Margaritas, thank you. Tequila. See, people can jump in and help me out. And we gave you the electric brake. We gave you the artificial heart, the Big Bang Theory. We gave you the pen. We gave you the capture code. I'm sorry about that one. And there's more.
You got 20 seconds. You got it. You're
okay.
High altitude.
Altitude. I forgot about that. Thank God fucking Hollywood isn't here, because it would have been even worse.
Yeah.
We have 500,000 soldiers who fought in World War II with incredible activists also in the 30s. We were the first group to fight against segregation because in 1914 in Colorado and in Texas, because we were also segregated. We were segregated, we were experimented on, we were tested on, we were sterilized, we were massacred. 6,000 Latino people were lynched, shot at, and burned alive in America from 1830 to 1930. We were the only group that was American citizens, and in 1930, Herbert Hoover thought it was a great idea to deport 2 million of us and take away all our wealth and take everything we owned. That's a minute?
That's a minute 30, but you're like my brother, so I, was like, I felt bad. You're on a roll.
I can keep going, because I'm the Rain Man of Latin facts, but that's what I had to download every single time so they could understand the value of what I was looking for, Latin excellence across America. But with Cesar, I didn't have to do that. And he greenlit my show, and then boom, there's this show where I go across America. This time I went to 6 cities. I went to D.C., New York, Miami, Chicago, L.A., and Puerto Rico, which is not a city, it's a country. I looked for Latin excellence, and I found it everywhere. Activists everywhere in Chicago, in Humboldt Park, trying to get financing to schools, and activists in D.C., and chefs and restaurateurs and great successful actors like George Lopez and Michael Pena, and I just found it everywhere.
So 6 years, no one picked up the show. MSNBC picks it up. How are the ratings?
Killer. We are killing it. That's right. That's why I got picked up, because
it was like the #1
show in the last few years in the time slot and in that age
in cable, and then awards too, right? Like, aren't there some awards? Like,
I heard there was some awards, but I haven't had the time to check my phone because I'm talking to you all day long.
But awards are coming. Anyways, John, congratulations, man. That is incredible. Catherine, I want to go back to you because you brought up a good point. You had all these activists that every year marched from Selma to Montgomery, and nobody was stopping and addressing this problem. So you're a dot on the map. How do you get on the cover of Time magazine, getting to the White House? How do you finally get America aware of what's happening in your county?
Well, first of all, what I did was try to bring people to Lowndes County who had never been there before. Some of the wealthiest people in this country went to Pamela Rush's mobile home because some of these people have never been inside of a trailer. They don't know what it's like to see raw sewage on the ground and to walk out back and see it when someone flushes their toilet and see how it comes out and see where children are playing around it. So that was one of the things that I did. In addition to that, I did a lot of writing. I also wrote a book, Waste One Woman's Fight Against America's Dirty Secret. And it was autobiographical, but it gave me a chance to tell the story of communities, not just in Lowndes, but communities around the country with raw sewage on the ground. I just came from California, and talking to people there because they have people with failing septic tanks there as well. Same thing is true in Miami. I mean, I went there thinking, I went to the Aspen Climate Conference thinking that we'd be the only ones talking about failing septic, but people were pulling us aside, said, come to Miami, we got the same problem. Wow. So these are issues that we find around the country, and we have been amplifying them, writing about it.
What did local officials tell you? I'm so curious, what did local officials tell you?
Local officials, a lot of them were living with raw sewage on the ground. You know, people are just embarrassed. I think that what we've done by bringing it to the forefront is allow people to not to be shamed to talk about sewage.
Right.
Because a lot of people have been made to feel it was a personal issue, or they thought it was a plumbing problem for those that, because we not only have sewage running out onto the ground, we have sewage coming back into the home. But one of the major things that brought the attention of others, and I think led to me winning the MacArthur Award, was that I saw an op-ed that was in the New York Times that was written by Dr. Peter Hotez, and he talked about the fact that tropical diseases were coming to our shores. So I Googled him and found an email and emailed him and said, look, what about raw sewage on the ground? What kind of illnesses can be associated with that? And out of that came the parasite study, where we found evidence of tropical parasites. In particular, we found evidence of hookworm in the US. And at the time we made this public, you know, we had people talking about S-hole countries, you know, and so forth. So against the backdrop of that, and we also invited the UN to come. The UN Special Rapporteur on Extreme Poverty came to visit Lowndes County.
A global organization.
A global organization. The UN had to come to Alabama, and when he saw what he saw, he went back, and it just so happened that when he made his report, I think that when the U.S. left the Human Rights Council, and the choice of words they used, they call the UN Human Rights Council a cesspool. So when the special rapporteur made his remarks, he started off by saying in Geneva to representatives from around the world that the U.S. need to deal with the cesspools that he saw in Alabama.
Susan, you know, I read this a long time ago. I read this thing on prisons, and it said basically the history behind prisons and the philosophy, or a theory originally, was that prisons should not be punitive. They should be rehabilitative. And yet, in America, that doesn't happen at all, right? People leave prison after serving their time, and there's a massive stigma on them. They can't get jobs, can't vote, they don't have a lot of rights. If you had the power to change one thing in this country, if you could talk to President Biden, if you could talk to the Congress, and they would say, whatever you want, Susan, we're going to change, what's the one law or one issue you would change around that, around incarceration?
Labor, people's labor would not be exploited because, well, you're a slave. So that amendment that says, you know, if you're convicted of a crime, involuntary servitude, you'll be punished, you can be punished. And that it would not be punishment, it would be something that rehabilitated. And when people talk about abolish prisons, you know, they're talking about abolishing a system that continues to promote slavery and perpetrate slavery. They're not saying, you know, turn everybody loose and leave us to be preyed upon by people who really do pose a threat to society. What they're saying is stop the exploitation of labor, stop punishing people. You know, I was a mother that was grieving. I didn't need to be punished. I needed to be helped. And there were so many other women that I met just like that needed support, help, even support or help through a tough time to get to the other side of it. So I would say that that clause in the 13th Amendment, it would be stripped out.
When you talk to businesses in your communities and you ask them to help hire, to help give opportunities, to help give them a chance, a second chance, maybe a third chance, how hard is that conversation, and what's your pitch to those people?
In the beginning, in 1998, it felt so lonely and so difficult, but I knew that what I was doing was the just and the right thing with my life and with my resources. Then it was quite, I felt quite abandoned. But now I think people are understanding that there's a better use of resources, and that, people are not throwaway people. They have potential. And if we want to create a better society, we have to include everybody in that. Yeah. Who hasn't had a bad day? Yeah. Who hasn't made a mistake? So that mistake or bad day does not define you in your totality. Yeah. So I think people are beginning to recognize it. We've had some great works written, like The New Jim Crow, Brian Stevenson's book, Just Mercy. I went to Alabama, was one of the first places that I went with my book, and I met a woman there named Geneva Cooley. She was serving 999 years and 99 months for a drug charge. It floored me. It floored me because I said, I'm sitting across from her, I'm saying, like, when are you coming home? And she said, never. I got convicted of a drug charge. And 999 years, 99 months, and 99 days. So I went home and I Googled her, and there she was with this sentence. We were able to get Geneva out.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
But what sense does that make?
Doesn't.
And we have a safe house in Alabama, too. That's one of the states that, huh?
You have plumbing?
We got plumbing. Okay. Yeah, we have plumbing there.
Susan, real quick, tell me about the moment, because a big part of your organization is providing that home. And you talked about this with Savannah, where you leave this concrete box and you walk into a home. What's that moment like for these women, that first moment?
I think from where they come from, it's hard for them to grasp or believe that it's real, and I can see that in their eye, in their body language. There was one woman, I'll give you, one woman came home, and after about 2 hours, she had been gone for like 25 years. And after about 2 hours, she kind of walked back into the office, and she said, I just opened a refrigerator. I just opened a refrigerator. And that's something, I mean, we get up, we go in the refrigerator, we get yogurt, we get whatever. Yeah. And she came back in the office with tears in her eyes saying, I just opened a refrigerator. And it still brings tears to my eyes to think about that moment, but different people, different things. And like this woman says, I want this really big bedspread because I just want to be warm. Yeah. So different things for different people. But I know I'm so grateful that I got that place in Santa Monica.
Yeah.
And in that community, they showed me something different, to the place that it penetrated me in a way that it grew so much compassion, love, thoughtfulness for other people. And I could come back and draw on a well of it. It doesn't run out.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And I just want to thank Aspen.
Yeah.
I never dreamed I would be on a stage at Aspen. I want to thank you, Tom.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
Well,
I come from the projects, Aliso Village.
But Susan, you bring up a good segue for me, and I want to let the audience know in about 4 minutes we're going to open it up to questions. But John, I'm hearing these stories. I'm meeting people like Susan and Catherine. I'm also meeting people here at Aspen that have incredible business ideas, things that I've never even heard of, apps that are being created that are helping people. So I'm telling my team, like, guys, I got 10 news stories for us, some people we should interview. How do we get these stories told by Hollywood? Because Hollywood sometimes does tell a story. We know when Hollywood does tell these stories, it brings about change.
Absolutely.
You know, so are we in a point where we could make these movies, make these TV series about people like this?
You know, Hollywood isn't really as empathic as you would think. It's very monetary situation. I mean, I think COVID, the pandemic, Black Lives Matter, I think it made a big change in America and in Hollywood and in general in terms of empathy and our reboot and looking at ourselves and going, look, we're not doing enough. We thought we had equity, we thought we had parity, but we actually don't. And Hollywood started to see that and started to make changes. I mean, I saw active change. I saw active inclusion and diversity programs and hiring of Black and Latino and Asian executives that recently all got fired. As they started cleaning house because the streaming bubble burst. So we were the first casualties. You know, I did a documentary on prison on Rikers, and it's been impossible to sell because what I was told is they don't want to do docs that are depressing like that.
You made the film, it's done, and nobody's buying it.
You can't sell it because it's all Latin and Black and it's a depressing subject matter, and they don't want to do it. They want to do things that are global and big and have an uplifting, you know.
Yeah, but I would argue there is some uplift in some of these stories. You know, there is.
Absolutely.
Uplift.
No, you don't have to preach to me.
Yeah.
You don't have to convince me. I'm already there. Hollywood's tricky that way. You know, I mean, I think there was a lot of stuff done, a lot of it more for optics. Because I had an overall deal that will be canceled shortly after the writer's strike. But it was to bring diversity, to bring in Eva Longoria, Angela Bassett, myself, Selma Hayek. We were all at Viacom. We had a deal, and I brought them tons of scripts. But nothing was ever green-lightable enough, you know. First of all, I brought dramas. They go, no, we don't want depressing stuff. So they said, we want rom-coms gone wrong. I go, what?
What is that?
Exactly. I'm like, what? Who's writing that shit? Who wants to see that crap? I don't know. And that's when Netflix went wrong because they started doing only content like that, and that's when they started to dip. And then
I love John because John doesn't hold back. I mean, John, he says how it is. He's fearless. I love that, man.
I'm not afraid, yo.
Keep it real.
Yeah. I got to be real. I got me. That's all I got is my reality and being honest. And then they changed it to holiday films, so it was impossible. You could never win. But it was all. I mean, I guess they were trying to do the right thing, but I think that's happening across the board.
But you're still fighting, and you're not stopping, and that's inspiring to me, man.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna keep fighting. I think the fight is worthwhile. I know there's so much Latinos out there, Black people, Asian people who love my work, and they're the ones that supported me when I started out in Mambo Mouth.
Yeah.
I didn't know that my content would resonate. I was doing my content for another Latin kid that looked like me to give him a mirror of themselves, and all of a sudden, boom! You know, Latin people found me, and Black comedians found me, and they followed me. You know, I'm performing at the Wiltern 5 years later, and there's Eddie Murphy and the Wayans brothers and Adam Sandler, all these people in my theater.
Now they're in your world.
It was wild, yeah. So it's worth it.
Before we open it up to questions, real quick. This is quick if you can, because this is all about inspiration. What inspires you right now? What's inspiring you?
I'm at the Aspen Ideas Festival. I mean, damn, got no better, you know? I mean, yeah, that inspires, you know, I hope for the future. But right now, I'm at the Aspen Ideas.
Yeah. That's great. John, what about you? What's inspiring you? What's motivating you?
I think fans coming up to me and saying that they love the show and they felt seen, that always inspires the hell out of me, you know, because it feels like even if I reach 3 people, they've been inspired, and that always warms my heart. You know, it just makes me go, oh wow, so there's a value to fighting and getting your content out there.
Yeah, Catherine.
What inspires me is the 7th generation, because everything that I do, I want to leave a legacy to make sure that my grandson, who is 7, or my 2-month-old granddaughter don't have to do this all over again.
Yeah. With that, we're going to open it up to some questions. Yeah, go for it.
Thank you so much for being here and also inspiring us as young activists, as young leaders. My name is MJ. I'm from Denver, Colorado, or at least I work there. My job is an abolitionist within the child welfare system. People don't understand that 70% of all incarcerated beings in America, 70% have been in foster care. 50% of our homeless population have been in foster care. I continuously have to beg and change the narrative of the worthiness of Black and brown and indigenous families to stay together. What does it look like to continue on to change the narrative, to show that we're worthy, to be community, to be family, to heal? 26,000 youth age out of the foster care system every year. In less than 24 hours, 40% of those youth are homeless within 24 hours. We're not talking about where it starts and where it begins. To go to what you're saying, no one covers the story of the youth that were children that still love their parents, and their parents, what did they need? They needed help. So how do we continue to change the narrative to show that we're worthy to be community and to be family?
So I would say you don't show that you're worthy, you know that you're worthy. And yeah, you know, and that will be the show in itself. And it looks different on different days. There's going to be days of victory. There's going to be days of heartbreak. There's going to be days of joy. There's going to be, you know, all of these accumulation of different days that's going to fill your rainbow of life. But, you know, you just know that you're worthy, and you know that the work that you're doing is what you came to the planet to do. Stay committed, you know, don't wear yourself out or down, you know, but know that you are enough. Yeah. And the rest will follow.
Yeah. Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
The mic's on? Okay. Hi, I'm Charity. I'm Yupik and Samoan. For those who don't know, that's Alaska Native and Pacific Islander. I did join a little late, but from what I've heard, I'm just so honored that you guys are here and have traveled here safely. I think the flight was a bit scary, but yeah. But I also come here as like a Native youth, and one thing that I learned a lot, especially back at home in Alaska, but even back in American Samoa, elders always taught me to think about liberation and what it looks like for the communities that I represent, but also what it looks like for our community back home in Alaska and our community back in American Samoa. And I wanted to ask what liberation looks like for all of you.
Yeah. Ooh. Who wants to take that?
Wow, that's deep. That's deep.
You just demonstrated it, you know, free.
Yeah, I mean, liberation looks like parity to me. I mean, that's what it is, parity. When I see 20% we're 20% of the population of the U.S. population. We're 80 million Latinos in America. 11 of those are undocumented that I'm including. But when I see 20% of the faces in front of the camera, 20% of the executives are Latino, 20% of the stories are Latino, 20% of the crew, that's when I feel liberated. When 20% of the executives in corporations, 20% of corporate lawyers are Latino, when I see us included in all those boardrooms and everywhere at 20%, then I know we're getting a fair share, and there's some liberation there.
Catherine, you want to?
Liberation to me means that the Constitution applies to all of us. Yeah. And we don't have to keep fighting the same thing over and over, because that's been bothering me. You know, when I see books being banned, you know, I see the things that my parents fought against, and it's coming back. And I'm actually writing a piece that's entitled, Victory Means Vigilance. And I like for us to get to, liberation means when we can get to a point where we can relax and just be Americans, all of us.
That's great.
There in the back.
Good afternoon. My name is Bumi Akinisotu, and I work here at the Aspen Institute in DC and work on city issues. You actually talked about relaxing, and I wanted to know, how do you all stay okay in the work that you do?
Yeah, Susan, that's got to be. I mean, yeah. How do you?
So in the beginning of my work, I had enough anger to fuel a spaceship to the moon. About what had happened in my life and what had happened to my community. But over time, the anger was not going to be what took me to where I needed to be. So I worked through so much forgiveness and compassion, not only for others, but for myself. And the love that comes out of that is the fuel that keeps me going. Love for me, love for myself, love for my fellow man, love for the universe. I'm, a little bit older than you. Yeah. So, I take time, regular time now to do things for myself. With myself and with my daughter. I have a daughter and I have a granddaughter, and a couple of weeks ago I was told I'm going to be a great-grand. So, wow. I've been praying, God, please keep me around long enough so I can see a great-grandchild, so it's coming. But yeah, I hope that kind of answers your question. And so I don't forget, thank you for being the vessel that brought me to Aspen.
Oh, please.
And NBC and what have you. Yeah, you put this together, so I just want to say thank you.
Yeah, it wasn't me, but I will take the thank you, but thank you because you have no idea how you inspire people. Like you literally have no idea what you leave in people.
Thank you.
It's amazing.
Thank you.
John, how do you sort of, relax?
Allyship makes me relax, because then I go, I don't have to fight so hard by myself. So when white allies, black allies, Asian allies, Jewish allies support me, I feel relaxed, and I feel good, and I feel like we're all together, and we should be fighting for each other.
Yeah. Catherine?
Well, I watch a lot of trash TV. I watch 90 Day Fiance. I'm just going to be.
That's the reason why John can't get a show on, because he's watching 90 Day Fiance,
I watch John's show too, but when I have to relax sometimes you have to disconnect.
Yeah, I agree.
And when I disconnect, I look at something meaningless. And then the other thing that helps me relax is to just talk about, where I've come from and recognizing that, if a little black girl from Lowndes County, Alabama, can end up at the White House to introduce the President of the United States, anything is possible.
Yeah.
So,
Yes, it is.
Yeah, we got a few more seconds, but or 0 minutes remaining. But quickly, what do you say?
Ms. Burton, where can we get your book?
So I brought a couple of copies.
Yeah, all right.
For folks that want the book, or you can get it on Amazon. But I brought a couple of copies.
I
with
took
me.
one already.
Yeah, okay.
I appreciate
And then, sir, go for it.
So, just wanted to build off
off the last thing you guys were talking about. You're here at Aspen. I work for Aspen Institute. Chris Estes, great to see you. With all these people, what do you want, besides people coming up and telling you how inspiring your work is, what do you want people here to do as allies in this work with you and with others? We have this opportunity to network with such a broad and diverse segment, and you have powerful stories and people will respond positively, but we need more than that. And I just wanted an opportunity to sort of voice that to folks here, because we all need to hear what we need to do in this fight.
I'll tell
as
you
well.
what you need to do. And I did it. I was a host on The Daily Show, the first Latino host, the first Latin person, I guess, in front of the camera and behind the camera there, except people who are doing all the service work. And it was unacceptable in a city that's 35. We're equal to whites in New York City, 35%, and we've been there forever. And I asked them to please change their roster and add Latin folk. And they went and they called all the comedians I gave them, the actors, producers, directors, writers, and they called. And that's how you do it. You make sure there's a Latin person in your staff. Make sure there's a Latin person in your boardroom. Or a black executive. That's how you do it. Make sure that you're including us. It's very easy to do. I don't think it's that difficult.
Well, I like to add to that. This is an example. We actually were in Aspen several months ago, and we came here and said, look, a lot of the communities, because I do environmental justice work, and a lot of the communities that are suffering from environmental justice issues are communities of color. But Aspen needs to partner with an organization like ours to reach out to these EJ groups. So we're partnering with Aspen, and we're actually doing in October 2nd and 3rd in Huntsville, Alabama. I think Aspen probably has never been to Alabama, but in Huntsville, Alabama, we're doing something on community engagement and responsible carbon removal. And that's an example of how we change things. It's making sure that it's more inclusive, because when I first came to Aspen, I thought I would never be invited back. But because the voices that are here now, I wasn't hearing those voices then. We were talking about water, and we weren't hearing those voices, but now I've seen it change and blossom, and I'd like to encourage you to continue to do that.
Great.
You want to go?
Yeah, so women are leaving prisons all over the nation, all over the world with nothing and nowhere to go. And I want to continue to build out a network of safe homes, transform the way people and institutions are looking at a lack of investment on the back end. I want to transform the budgets, that the prison budgets aren't more than the reentry budgets, and that we're looking differently at how we are treating people. I really want the 13th Amendment looked at, but for the right now, let's get people safely back in their communities.
Thank you to all the panelists. Really, thank you for sharing and opening up. It was amazing.
Thank
you all for listening. We appreciate it.